if you do your custom model, you have to host it. And so that now becomes where, okay, how am I going to host it? The costs around those. There are companies that allow you to do that. So there's Tinker that's online, and they allow you to host it. They provide a hosting platform. It was made by Mira Murati. She was the one that left OpenAI. There's a lot of these places where you can do that. Even OpenAI allows you to upload custom models, but then you have to get an enterprise plan. An enterprise plan means money. So it's like it's not for the weak of heart, all right? But for the regular set of us, we should use skills, okay? So and that's not technically a custom model, but it accomplishes the same kind of thing, okay? Software training. Okay, so all right, I'm going to come up with a fictitious scenario, okay? And I'm going to say that you've now got a new course that you've got to go teach. E-learning, okay? And this e-learning course, you got folders, you've got topics that you want to go through, and you want to make sure that you've built out your curriculum where you've got, hey, here's my lesson section, maybe my quiz and all those type of things, and you've got a process that you're taking each topic through. And you've got folders. You like have a folder for intake. Your next folder is like, okay, I've come up with my brainstorming. Next folder is, all right, I've got my actual topics, like a separate topic file. The next one is like, it's elaborated where I can go for content review. Next folder, and I'm using these folders as my process or workflow system, right? And so I go ahead and have a conversation with it and say, let's put the first set of files in here, and I'm going to tell it, all right, you go ahead and work with 5 of your friends, 5 agents, spin them up. That's the other special thing about this in the desktop app, right? I can say, spin up 5 agents, and this guy will suddenly create 5 sessions, and each of those are technically agents. And I can say, all 5 of you, go ahead and work on one file separately, and come up with your ideas. And then once you're ready with your ideas, move it to the next folder and let me know so I can go review. And then I go review. And then I'm like, okay, it's good. I talk to it and I say, hey, all right, move that file. It's good. Here are my revisions. Now move it to the next stage. I want you to go blow it up and show me the topics of you, write out the content, and let me review that. And, well, by the way, before I review it, have another agent review it for accuracy, and you guys duke it out and say what you're going to change, so that way I don't have to give you basic stuff and then give it back to me. And then put your outcome in the next folder, and you now go have that in your folder, and you go there and you're looking, you're like, oh, this is looking pretty good. Okay, I want assessment. Come up with questions around that. Go ahead and create the questions and answers. Put that into the next folder and move it along the process. Now you see yourself building and pipelining a chain of events where by the time you get to the end, you've got your finished work that you can now say, I like this, right? And then you now start the process again with your next topic, and you run through that. And because you've already identified these, maybe you've created skills out of them, maybe you've created reusable prompts out of them, you can now just kind of kick them off. The other weird part about this is these agents are really sharp. You can create another agent and say, hey, I want you to monitor this process for all these agents and move things along and do it every 10 minutes for the next 4 hours. I'm not here, all right? Every 10 minutes, see if you don't like what they said, send it back. And all of a sudden, you now have a team, no longer one agent. You have multiple people. I literally sometimes can name this. I have one that I name Chief of Staff, all right? And it's just there. And I tell it, monitor these other guys and just run on a frequent basis, 10, 15 minutes, and go do something. All right, and it's doing that. Yes, it does burn some tokens, but it will move things along without you being involved, which means you can come back 4 hours later to a finished product, right, that you can go ahead and use. But you can see that can be done in the course e-learning space, but it could also be done in the accounting space where I may have invoices or whatever. Difference between it being ChatGPT is that you here I'm prompting, I get a question, I copy it, do. Here I'm not doing that. We've done the talking, and I say, go do the work, and I leave you alone. I can step away from the computer and then come back and see results. Someone had their hand up? Go ahead.
Can you actually try to quantify what a token is?
Yeah. So, okay, so yeah. So we call them, he actually started on that. So he talked about large language models. They're trained on the internet. A token is almost a word. It's like a certain number of characters. I think it's like 4 characters. And I actually have that lesson in my paid portion of the course. But anyways, so it's like about 4 or so characters, almost a word, all right? So things like hello world is like 2 tokens. But if I said internationalization, that's like 1, 2, 3. That's like 3 tokens, all right? Those are words. All right. And then when you send it to the model, right, all these model providers, they charge for what's called the input and they charge for what's called the output. And usually the output is more expensive. So, and they because they do charges in what's called million, they price per million tokens, which is effectively per million words. Okay? And so some tokens that are really sharp and really smart and have been trained a lot will come out being like, hey, for instance, I'm charging you $5 for every million tokens you come in. And then the output, which is what they're thinking is valuable, they may say is $20 for every million words back out. Now, there are different domains here. For most of us over here, we will not see it be a real expensive issue. And the reason I say that is because of the type of work we do, okay? A million words is like a book. Most of us are not writing books. Now, for all the developers over here, the work that we do generates lots of output because if I build a website, it has a lot of words in that website. If I build a this and that, there's a lot of words. So every little thing we do, it's a little bit more expensive for us, so we see it a little bit more, we're a little bit more sensitive about it. But I'll tell you this, so for instance, my wife wanted to write a book. She's never written a book, and please don't watch this video. Anyways, and she's like, hey, you know what? I've got this idea. I've always wanted to do this, and let me see. And so she likes romance topics, and she's spitballing on the phone. We're in bed, and she's just talking about them. And it says, yeah, I can come up. And they go through the concepts, and then we now say, okay, agent, go ahead and write. She says she can't do more than 7, 10 chapters, so don't go too long, don't go too deep. And it comes up with an outline, an arc for each chapter. And those words, they're not that much. So, and the whole thing, a 12-chapter storybook was done for probably less than $2. Right? Okay? And she went through all that because the business of words over there is not that much. Whereas in some other places, like let's say you're a law firm and you deal in 200 pages per case or whatever, and you've got lots of words, for it to read all of that is already going to be something before it spits something out, right? So the more text, you expect more expense. But not everything's like that. It can create music, and your song is not going to be a million words. So if you're being charged $2 for a million words, guess what? You're not going to spend a million words for your lyrics, right? So different domains are going to use more words than others, and you don't need to use the most expensive ones. So token is literally a word. It's slightly less than a word, but we will call it a word for intensive purposes. Hope that answered your question. All right. Okay, so I guess this is the show and tell portion now, and we can do all types of show and tell things, right? So at first, I was told this was like a heavily technical group, and I was like, okay, let's do some database stuff. And then I come in, and it was like, no, I don't work with databases. I'm like, oh, okay. So we can do literally anything we want. I do have some things packaged up in that worksheet. I'll just go ahead and give you, so there's this section that says real work, and we can run through any of these exercises if any of them seem interesting enough for you. Let me see what this one's about. Okay, this one. The situation, a company had a bad afternoon in June. Their payment supplier came in, fixed it, and sent 2 invoices for the work, but the finance team's uneasy because there's something off about the price, okay? And they've got a bunch, so this is the finance team, they've got a folder with a bunch of invoices out there, and they want to go do some work. Now, I don't expect you to read all this. The workshop is there. You can go run this at home yourself. You just download with your favorite tool, but I'll just kind of run through one, just so that way you can kind of see what's possible, and then once you start using them, the thing about this is always make sure, like, everyone I've seen deal around with AI, they just come and they do simple things. They don't try to do really ambitious things. Give it your hardest task, and you'll be surprised at how far you go, okay? All right. Give it your hardest task, and you'll be surprised how far you go, okay? And the other portion to it is don't be scared of asking it. It doesn't judge you, right? Sometimes I've actually literally had this from a lot of people. Some people in here, right? They'll come up to me and they'll be like, okay, I want to do this with the AI tool, but how do I do this? And my first thing is, have you asked it? Because you're asking me, I don't know how to do the thing. When you ask me, the very first thing I'm going to do is go ask it. And it's going to tell you, well, we can do it 3 ways. You want to try it? I'm like, oh, yeah, sure, why not? So people, for some reason, are just scared of asking. So just take away that thing. It's not going to judge you one way. It's always going to think you're right. That is one bad thing about it, all right? It will say you are right, even when you're wrong. So it's so always sometimes ask it, hey, challenge me. on this, give you the opposite view. Someone mentioned critical thinking yesterday, right? You still need to think a little bit, right, or a lot, as in don't just trust its output. It can make mistakes, and when the mistakes are there, they can be costly. I think I heard you talk about adversarial reviews. Those are good, and that's when you get two of them to fight each other because the output is better, right? So this guy will come in and say, hey, I've got this answer, and you're like, hey, prove it to me. The other guy says, prove it to me. How? And then it proves it to it. It's like, oh, okay, fine, you're good to go.